Iran just responded to the United States peace proposal. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Iran is not acting like one country right now. On one side, you have Iran's political leadership sending messages through Pakistan, trying to negotiate a path out of this war. And on the other side, you have the IRGC threatening ships, pressuring the Strait of Hormuz, and keeping the entire region one mistake away from a wider conflict. So the real story is not just will Iran take the deal. The real story is this. Who is actually in charge of Iran right now? We haven't seen the Ayatollah since the war began. And that's what we're breaking down today. Because when a government is negotiating peace while its military power center keeps escalating at sea, that's not strength. That is a fracture. And the Strait of Hormuz is where that fracture is becoming visible. Tehran may want a deal. The IRGC may want leverage. But the world does not care about Iran's internal politics when oil tankers, shipping lanes, and U.S. forces are sitting in the middle of it. We're going to walk through what happened, what the proposals appear to say, and why this looks less like one unified Iranian strategy and more like two Irans pulling in opposite directions. You can see here this little image on the map. This is the absolute epicenter of the conflict that's happening. And it's a sad situation because of the amount of traffic that needs to go through this area just to keep the world under normal flow. And this is this 21-mile wide stretch. We're all very familiar with it. You've got Hormuz, Larik, and then you have the UAE here to the left. And this is causing a lot of trouble. Iran has responded to the proposal this morning, and this confirms that basically the headline and gives you an idea of what is going to happen. Iran sent its formal response through Pakistan, and it's strange that we are in the throes of an agreement using Pakistan, but I really think that this is what's happening. There is an absolute fracture. There is a military faction of this country, and then there's the negotiators up in Tehran. It's about 800 miles from Tehran to the Strait of Hormuz, where all of the conflict is occurring. Iran sent this proposal through their proxies, through Pakistan. I believe Pakistan could very well be in on some things. I don't know if I trust them as well as maybe some of the others do, but we got thousands of sailors, mariners, merchant marines that are stranded there in the Persian Gulf. They can't get out. Not only with those thousands being stranded, but there's also a lot of goods on those ships that need to be spread around the world. Diplomacy is happening. That matters. Iran didn't just shut or slam the door, but they very well could have, and hope that we can find some information. This is the latest clip here coming out of Fox News with Trey Yingst, and I want to hear what he has to say.
Shannon, good morning. Tension remains high across the Middle East as reports indicate Iran has responded to the U.S. peace proposal. This morning, a cargo ship off the coast of Qatar was hit with an unidentified projectile that caused a small fire on board. We know the incident follows the exchange of fire late last week in the Strait of Hormuz when Iran fired on 3 U.S. destroyers, prompting strikes against Iranian infrastructure on Qeshm Island and the port city of Bandar Abbas.
Does that sound like Iran wants diplomacy, if they want some kind of peace deal, when they're firing on 3 more tankers this morning? That's where we're at. And that's where I continue to believe that there is an absolute fracture between their leadership and their, I want to say, boots on the ground. My theory here. And the proposal seems to focus on the Strait of Hormuz first, and then obviously with the nuclear capabilities. But I don't think the IRGC wants to give up any of their power
Today as well, we warn the enemy that if they once again resort to aggression and once again become afflicted with miscalculation in the way that they were in the past and now, in fact, are enduring and paying for the price of those past mistakes, if the enemy once again becomes afflicted with miscalculation and resorts to aggression against our country, they will certainly face other surprising options.
While Iran continues to threaten U.S. forces, diplomatic efforts are ramping up to reach an agreement. On Saturday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, along with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, met with the Qatari Prime Minister in Miami, trying to work out a path forward for a negotiated settlement with Iran. President Trump has indicated that the bombing campaign against the Islamic Republic will resume if a deal isn't reached, although the timeline for an Iranian response remains uncertain.
Do you think they're slow-rolling it? Do you think they're intentionally slow-rolling the process?
We'll find that soon enough. This week, President Trump will travel to Beijing for a state visit. The Chinese import more than 1 million barrels of Iranian crude oil each day. This certainly will be a topic of conversation. Shannon?
So the part there at the end where the president said or wouldn't confirm what his opinion was if Iran is stalling, that's very important because like the reporter there says, the president is headed to Beijing, China. China imports 1 million barrels a day to keep that country afloat. And that's the real part that not a lot of people are recognizing because Iran is paying a lot of pressure right now, or they're receiving a lot of pressure, and the pressure is ramping up. And the pressure is coming from multiple locations. I would say North Korea. I would also say China as well. That's the main pressure is China. And this fracture in that country, could never be more clear. You have the negotiators, the leadership in Tehran, their mullahs, their ayatollah that we've not seen, and then you have their military. And I think this is a military coup in real time. And there's a lot more information that is leading me down that path. One of the things that were talked about in the negotiations, obviously retrieving this uranium, not allowing them to have the capability to enrich to that 60% level where they could create multiple nuclear weapons, lowering the restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz, allowing free passage in international waters, reducing their funding to some of these terrorist proxy groups like Hamas, like Hezbollah, coming to the table for long-term agreements. I don't believe the United States wants to get into a long-term conflict. The president so far has been very adamant with other conflicts around the world, trying to end those. So for the people that think that the president wants a long-term war, I think that's really out of line. I don't think the president wants to get into any long-term conflict while at the same time negotiating. It just doesn't make sense when you have these 9 previous conflicts ended and then magically this is the one where we go all in on. I don't think that's the case. If that were the case, he wouldn't have pulled back the Gerald Ford and deployed them back. Where I'm kind of at right now. But you're going to see here, there's a lot more happening there in Iran. And you can see these speedboats, the satellite imagery of these swarms boats. This is the IRGC running these over here on the left. And it's only getting worse. They are not doing their country, their people any favors by doing this. And they have swarms of these boats. And at some point, they very well could be a real problem. And this is from Oneida News, pretty good organization here. And it just shows and reiterates that the way that they move is very much like this pack mentality where they surround and threaten these ships. And once they get in on these small swarms that are affecting these ships at this level, it's hard for them to do because these containers don't have protection. They are not armed. They're not allowed to be armed because they're in international waters, and one slip up could cause real problems if they were to happen. Now, the other thing that's happening right now is Iran is also lashing out at some of their other neighbors, including Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates. Apparently, they're also launching missiles into Iraq now. These were neighbors that they partnered with, that they were partners with in OPEC. And with the UAE leaving OPEC, I believe this could cause a real splinter in everything that's happening there. The Iranian Navy is continuing to threaten these tankers coming from these partnering countries. Apparently, they actually seized a Chinese tanker. This is one of the countries that they are selling oil to. So I don't know if Iran really understands their perspective anymore. I don't believe that they really, the IRGC doesn't understand the perspective of who the leadership is. That's the real problem. That's the disconnect. And I'd love for you to tell me in the comments down below. Do you think that the Iranian regime and the leadership are two basic different factions right now? Because that's where I'm kind of at, and I believe that's where the United States government is. We don't know who we're actually negotiating with. I believe Pakistan is probably helping with this divide. And the emergency that is happening there, at some point, there has to be probably a real meeting, a real sit down to get rid of split, this divide. We've got multiple reports coming out of the AP, Wall Street Journal, Reuters, that while all these diplomats are talking, that's where the real split lies. Al Jazeera is coming out this morning. The Iran sends this response through Pakistan to the U.S. proposal. I firmly believe whenever we do get a hold of this and we find some real information, they're probably going to turn it down, and we could start back up with another campaign of bombing. I don't know if that's the real answer. I don't believe that the president wants to have innocent loss of life, just the Iranian people. And the Iranian government shut off the internet there. We're on day 77 or 78. And I believe the reason they did that is because there's 42 plus thousand members of their own country, civilians, that they killed. And that is not what I would say is the way that a country that comes to a peace deal acts. Not the way that you negotiate by killing that many of your own people. And we're on a shaky ground with Iran. But we've got to get this open back up. We've got to get the flow of traffic happening back through that area. This is the conflict map as of this morning. And you can see the strikes that are marked here in red and yellow circles. So they're continuing to happen. And I believe they will continue to happen until we get some real resolution, some real negotiating. The one thing that worries me, or that Iran should be worried about, because I believe these are going to be the next main targets. If you see these red circles with the missile here, these are the Iranian missile bases, and those are going to come into play very quickly. Iran says that they still have all of their capabilities. I'm not sure if they do. It could very well be a bluff. I think the United States is going to call the bluff because we have to get this back open. The British Navy apparently is sending a destroyer to the area to help with the escorts through the Strait of Hormuz. That's great. I wish other NATO countries would, because it doesn't sound like these other governments want to help move towards peace until it really starts affecting their bottom line. We covered in a video yesterday how we don't get 1 ounce of oil from Iran, but yet these oil companies here in the United States continue to jack up the prices. And it's sad that the level of, I can't use the word corruption, but the level of opportunity that is being seized on the backs of Americans and the backs of these men and women that are serving their country over there. It's a real kind of dirty game. The oil industry as a whole is a dirty game. Now, we've got information coming out right now. As this video unfolds, Iran refuses to address their nuclear program in the latest peace deal. So they're not going to relinquish this U.S. peace proposal to reduce the amount of enrichment to turn over their uranium. That's going to be a no-go for the president right now. The White House hasn't confirmed yet as to their response, but I do not think that we're going to allow them to have this nuclear capabilities. That was one of the big hang-ups there. The AP is now jumping on this. Iran responds to a ceasefire proposal as drones target the Gulf nations. This whole time Iran is negotiating, they're launching drone attacks and ballistic missiles at their neighbors. So does it sound like one side of the country wants to negotiate and the other side wants to continue the bombings and the drone attacks? I believe that's really where we're at right now. And I'm not sure how we get past this, because Iran has their own problems. And I'm going to tell you my boiled down read on this. Iran may not be in a civil war in the classic sense, but it is acting like a country with two competing centers of gravity. Tehran is negotiating, the IRGC is escalating, and the Strait of Hormuz is where that divide is showing up in real time. And you can pick whichever side you want to support. I support the American military. I support our government, not all levels of our government. I have disagreements on multiple levels. Do I think I have some ideas that are different than our president? Absolutely. But at the same time, I'm not just going to turn tail and run because I disagree with someone. And I think that's where we've got to get back to, because you could replace the image of this map with the policies and the politics here in the United States, and you could really frame it the same way. There's so many people that are against this, but also at the same time here in our own country, just because of who our leadership is, they will never support anything that the current administration accomplishes. They will never recognize any of those accomplishments, and any idea, it's naturally wrong. I hope you enjoy these breakdowns like this. We're going to be monitoring this in real time. It's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the women out there, not the fake ones. And thank you for watching. Smash a like and subscribe. Join the channel as a member right over here. You get access to a Discord server. You can get in and chat, and you can share some of your ideas with me, because I use a lot of the feedback from my subscribers and audience and comments. I try to read them all to get some real-time input for these videos. Thank you for watching. God bless America, and God bless our men and women that are stationed around the world. Whether you agree with what put them there or not, you have to support our troops. Take care. See you in the next one.